Dr. Alara Hayes adjusted her seat in the small, humming shuttle as it pierced the thin atmosphere of Xylaris. Outside, the planet spread like a jewel, oceans reflecting violet skies, mountains carved in hues she had never seen on Earth, and forests that shimmered with a soft, golden light. It was beautiful, yes, but also unfamiliar. Every star, every gust of wind felt like a whisper from a world that had existed long before humanity had even imagined it. She took a deep breath and tried to steady her excitement. This mission was meant to be scientific, observational, yet deep inside, she felt something more, something unspoken that drew her to this planet, something that made her pulse faster every time she saw the Lyrian's energy fields twinkling across the horizon. She wasn't just visiting a new world. She was entering a story that had begun long ago, one she had yet to understand fully. As the shuttle descended, she could see the Lyrians approaching. They moved gracefully, their bodies elongated, smooth and shimmering faintly, as if light itself ran through their veins. Their eyes were large and liquid, reflecting colors she had never known could exist. Though their movements were calm, she sensed an awareness in every gesture, every tilt of the head. The Lyrians were watching her as much as she was watching them. When the shuttle touched the landing pad, the doors opened with a soft hiss. Ilara stepped out cautiously. The scent of Xylaris was unlike anything on Earth, a mixture of wet stone, metallic flowers, and something she could only describe as alive. A light breeze brushed her hair, carrying whispers of energy that made the hairs on her arms stand on end. One Lyrian, a young one named Kael, stepped forward. He tilted his head slightly, his wide eyes studying her as though trying to read her very thoughts. Ilara felt a shiver of recognition she could not explain. There was something familiar in his gaze, something that resonated with her, though she had no idea why. "Welcome, Dr. Hayes," Kael said in a voice that was musical yet precise. The translation unit she wore converted it into English, but she felt the underlying tone, a mixture of curiosity, caution, and awe. "We have prepared a residence for you. It is simple by our standards, but comfortable." "Thank you, Kael," she said, managing a small smile. She stepped forward, feeling the ground beneath her boots, sensing the slight vibrations that ran through the planet's surface. Every detail seemed heightened, the sound of her own heartbeat, the shimmer of light on the buildings, the faint humming of energy in the air. It was as if the planet itself was alive, observing her as she observed it. Her residence was a dome made of translucent material, glowing softly from within. Inside, furniture molded itself to her body as she sat, adjusting automatically for comfort. She explored the room with cautious curiosity, touching surfaces that seemed to pulse slightly under her fingers. Every object radiated energy, but it was calming rather than overwhelming. When she finally stepped outside again, she found Kyle waiting. He motioned for her to follow him, leading her through streets suspended in midair, bridges of light connecting massive towers. The city was breathtaking. Gardens floated like clouds, shimmering with plants that sang faint melodies when brushed by the wind. It was not just beauty. There was intelligence in every curve, every structure, as if the city itself had grown consciously, learning from the thoughts of its inhabitants. "Your species has achieved remarkable progress," Kael said, his gaze scanning her carefully. "Yet somehow you have not forgotten what we once shared." Ilara blinked. "What do you mean?" Kyle paused, his eyes widening subtly, as if struggling to measure what to reveal. "You are different. Your presence here carries a resonance that our records have only observed in relics of the past. There was a time, long ago, when humans walked beside us in ways most cannot imagine." Ilara's heart skipped. She had studied the Lyrians' history extensively before coming, but nothing in her research hinted at humans having ever truly interacted with them. Most of what was known suggested distant observation, study, perhaps indirect guidance. Yet Cale's words hinted at something deeper, something alive in memory and in truth. "Can you show me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Cale hesitated, then nodded. "Not yet. First, you must see the city, understand its ways. The archives, the knowledge you seek, will reveal itself in time. But beware, Dr. Hayes. Some truths are hidden for a reason." They continued walking, and Ilara tried to absorb every detail. The Lyrians moved effortlessly, gliding slightly above the ground, hands extended to manipulate objects without touching them. Light bent around them subtly, creating patterns of iridescent color that shifted with their emotions. Ilara felt a thrill of understanding. These beings had evolved beyond simple perception. Their intelligence was interwoven with their very existence, with the energy of the planet itself. "Do you feel it?" Kyle asked suddenly. Ilara stopped. "Feel what?" "The life of the planet. It responds to thought, to presence. Your kind once could do the same. The bond is faint now, but it exists. You carry it inside you." Ilara shivered again. How could he know? She had always felt a connection to the stars, to the energy that ran through life. Even on Earth, she had sometimes touched a plant and felt it respond, almost as if it understood her curiosity. But she had dismissed it as imagination, as coincidence. Now, seeing the Lyrians, she began to realize that perhaps it was more, a dormant truth in all humans. They reached a central plaza where a fountain of pure energy spiraled into the sky. Around it, Lyrians interacted with holographic projections of stars, planets, and galaxies. As Ilara watched, she noticed subtle shapes, patterns that reminded her of human symbols, long forgotten. She realized with awe that the Lyrians' advanced technology had been shaped, guided, and perhaps inspired by humans in ages past. Kyle noticed her gaze. "You see it, the signs, the traces of what was once shared. Few can recognize them. Few humans can." Ilara felt a thrill of purpose and curiosity. She had come to Xylaris as a scientist, but now she sensed that her role was far more profound. She was not merely observing, she was remembering. The planet, the people, and the energy around her seemed to respond to her presence, as if acknowledging a familiar pulse. As the twin suns of Xylaris began to set, casting the sky in shades of deep violet and rose, Cale led her to a quieter area of the city. Here, massive crystal towers rose like silent guardians, reflecting light in every direction. The air vibrated softly, carrying whispers of knowledge she could almost understand. "Soon you will be ready to see the archives," Cale said. "They are not just books or records. They are memories. They hold the truth of our history with humans, the truth we have kept hidden for centuries. Be careful, Dr. Hayes. Not all who learn it are ready to understand." Ilara nodded, her mind racing. She felt the weight of centuries pressing against her, a bridge between her world and this one, waiting for her to cross. She knew instinctively that her journey on Xylaris would not only uncover secrets about the planet and its people, it would uncover secrets about herself and her species, secrets that had been buried in the stars long before she was born. As night fell, she looked up at the glowing constellations. Somewhere among them, humans had once walked beside the Lyrians, guiding, learning, and sharing. And now, perhaps, it was time for that story to awaken once more. For the first time in her life, Ilara felt a quiet certainty. She was exactly where she was meant to be. And somewhere across the plaza, Cale's eyes widened again, not with fear, but with recognition. The human had arrived, and the truth, long concealed, was stirring awake. The next morning, Dr. Ilara Hayes awoke to a soft golden light filtering through the translucent walls of her residence. The city outside was already alive, humming with energy and motion, yet the noise was not overwhelming. Instead, it was harmonious, as though the planet itself breathed in sync with its inhabitants. She rose, her curiosity sharper than ever. For today, Kale had promised to take her to the Central Archives, a place the Lyrians rarely allowed outsiders to visit. Breakfast was a quiet affair. Food arrived in small, glowing dishes that adjusted their flavor and texture based on the eater's preference, a simple nod to the Lyrians' sophisticated understanding of biology and energy. Elara marveled at the way the energy of the food seemed to blend seamlessly with her own body's rhythms, leaving her feeling lighter, more focused. Kyle watched her carefully, his wide eyes reflecting a mixture of patience and anticipation. "You are ready," he said finally, his voice a gentle hum of sound and color. "The archives are not just for looking, they are for experiencing. The truth is stored here, not merely as knowledge, but as living memory. You must be prepared to feel it as well as see it." Elara nodded, heart pounding. She had read about the Lyrians' archives in books and digital texts sent from Earth, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality. These were not halls filled with simple records. They were living histories, energy and knowledge interwoven, accessible to those who could perceive it. The journey to the archive was mesmerizing. They walked along a bridge of light suspended high above the city, beneath them a river of bioluminescent flora flowing like water. The plants bent slightly as they passed, responding to their presence in a subtle dance of light and movement. Kyle spoke softly, almost as if the archive itself could hear them. "Humans were once more than observers. Long ago your kind walked beside us, shaping the flow of knowledge, guiding civilizations across many worlds. The Lyrians kept this hidden when your species retreated, for fear it might be misused or misunderstood. Now, with your presence here, some part of that memory awakens." Elara felt a shiver of recognition. Something in her chest, something older than herself, stirred. It was as if she could feel threads of history intertwining with her own life, like whispers in her DNA that had waited for centuries to be heard. They reached the entrance, a towering arch of crystalline light. Energy pulsed through the structure, subtle vibrations that resonated with her own heartbeat. Kyle extended a hand. "Are you ready?" "Yes," she said, though her voice wavered slightly. As they stepped inside, the atmosphere changed. The air shimmered with countless colors, and the walls themselves seemed to hum. Images of distant stars, galaxies, and civilizations floated in the air like living tapestries. The archive was vast, stretching beyond what her eyes could see, a cathedral of light and memory. Kyle led her to a quiet chamber in the heart of the archive. Here, the energy was concentrated, and the records were more vivid. He extended his hand, and a series of holographic figures appeared, representing humans from a time long past. They were working alongside Lyrians, exchanging knowledge, teaching and learning from one another. Elara's eyes widened. She had always known humans were intelligent, inventive, capable of great achievements, but seeing them interact with the Lyrians in this way made her heart swell. They were not just observers. They were architects, partners, teachers. "These are our ancestors together," Kale explained. "Humans guided our early understanding of energy, helped us navigate the stars, and even taught us to harmonize our technology with the living world. When humans disappeared from our records, we mourned, but also feared revealing the truth too soon. We did not want to lose the lessons you left behind." Elara reached out, and the energy figures shifted in response, almost as if recognizing her presence. She felt a warmth spread through her body, a connection she could not explain. These were not simply images or holograms. They were memories, living echoes of a shared past. I never imagined this, she said softly. We always thought we were alone in understanding the universe, learning, discovering. Yet here, it seems, humans were never separate. We were part of something greater all along. Kyle nodded. Yes, and now that story can continue, but it must be handled with care. The truth can inspire, but it can also create fear. Many in my world have never encountered a human before, and some may not be ready to accept what you represent. Ilara felt a sense of responsibility she had never known. She had come as a scientist, seeking knowledge, but now she realized she carried a legacy. Humans were part of the galaxy's history in ways few could comprehend, and she was living proof of that connection. They moved deeper into the archives, passing chambers filled with swirling energy patterns that told stories without words. Entire civilizations unfolded before her eyes, Lyrians and humans working together to prevent disasters, share knowledge, and explore the stars. One sequence showed humans teaching the Lyrians how to harness planetary energy to create floating cities, guiding the flow of life in harmony with technology. Another showed a group of humans helping Lyrians map distant star systems, their calculations precise and elegant, leaving trails of light that shaped the galaxies for generations. Ilara could not take her eyes off these visions. She realized that humans had always been more than what her textbooks had told her. They were not just explorers or inventors, they were catalysts for progress, bridging worlds, connecting species, leaving marks that could be seen and felt even millennia later. As they reached a chamber at the very heart of the archive, Kale paused. The energy here was intense, almost overwhelming. Images of humans and Lyrians merged, showing not just achievements, but the bonds they had formed. Laughter, debate, teaching, learning, the energy carried emotions as much as knowledge. This is the core, Kale said. Here lies the truth that has been hidden for centuries. Humans did not vanish by choice. They evolved differently, spread across the stars, and yet always left traces of themselves behind. You carry that lineage, that legacy, within you. That is why your presence here is significant. Ilara felt tears prick her eyes. The truth was overwhelming, beautiful, and a little frightening. She had always felt connected to the stars, but never like this. Now, seeing the evidence, feeling the energy, she understood that humanity had always been part of something larger, a shared story across the cosmos. You mean humans shaped the galaxy and the Lyrians continued our work when we disappeared? She asked. Kale's eyes shone, the colors around him shifting with emotion. Yes, and now with you here, the story can continue. But you must remember, it is not only about knowledge. It is about harmony, cooperation, understanding. You carry the responsibility of rekindling what was once lost. Ilara nodded slowly. She had never imagined that one day she would be part of such a story. She had traveled far seeking knowledge, yet she had found something far more profound. A connection that spanned species, planets, and centuries. She was no longer just a human on an alien world. She was a bridge between past and present, between humans and Lyrians, between history and the future. As she lingered in the chamber, Kale guided her to a smaller alcove where a single projection remained. It was a human child laughing, reaching out to touch a Lyrian elder's hand. Energy flowed between them, visible and tangible, a connection that needed no words. Ilara felt it as if it ran through her own veins, a pulse of memory, hope, and unity. That is incredible, she whispered. They were friends, partners, family. Kale nodded, his expression softening. Yes, and that is what we must remember. Humans and Lyrians are connected in ways we cannot forget, even when time passes, even when one species moves on. Your arrival here reminds us of that bond. Ilara closed her eyes, letting the energy wash over her. She felt the centuries unfold, felt the whispers of humans long gone, guiding, teaching, sharing. And beneath it all, she felt something else, a quiet call, a sense of purpose that reached beyond the archive, beyond Xylaris, reaching to the stars themselves. After what felt like hours, she opened her eyes. Kale was watching her, his wide gaze calm but full of meaning. "Are you ready to continue?" he asked. "Yes," she said, standing tall. "I need to understand more. I need to see everything I can. The history, the knowledge, the connections. I need to know how humans shaped this universe." Kyle smiled faintly, a subtle shimmer of color radiating from his form. "Then we will proceed. But remember, Dr. Hayes, the archives are not just to be studied, they are to be experienced. The truth is alive. It will challenge you, inspire you, and perhaps even change you." As they moved further into the depths of the archive, Ilara felt a thrill unlike anything she had experienced on Earth. The Lyrians, the planet, the stars, they were all part of a living memory that welcomed her. She was no longer an outsider. She was part of a story that had been waiting for her arrival for centuries, a story that carried the weight and beauty of all humans who had come before her. And somewhere, deep in the glowing energy of the archives, the echoes of long-forgotten humans seemed to stir. They reached out with invisible hands, welcoming her, guiding her, acknowledging that their work had never truly ended. Ilara felt a quiet smile spread across her face. She was ready. The journey through Xylaris's hidden history had only just begun. And already she knew her life, and the life of her species, would never be the same. The day felt alive with possibilities. Dr. Ilara Hayes woke to a sky of soft lavender, streaked with the golden hues of Xylaris's twin suns. The city outside pulsed faintly, shimmering as if aware of her presence, and she could feel the quiet energy that flowed through its structures and inhabitants. Kyle was waiting for her in the plaza, his wide, reflective eyes attentive, patient, yet gleaming with anticipation. "Today, we explored deeper," he said, his voice carrying subtle colors that the translation device rendered as gentle music. "Not only the archives, but the records of Lyrian memory. You must understand not only what humans did in the past, but why your presence is important now." Ilara followed him through streets that floated above glowing rivers and gardens suspended in the air. Every step she took seemed to resonate with life, the energy beneath her feet adjusting subtly, like the planet itself was acknowledging her journey. She could no longer deny it. The sensation of being part of something larger was strong and insistent, almost tangible. They arrived at a towering structure near the center of the city. Unlike the crystalline archives, this building seemed alive. Its walls shifted colors and patterns, flowing like liquid light. Ilara felt a pull toward it, as if it contained not only knowledge, but emotion itself. "This is the Hall of Memory," Kyle explained. "It holds the experiences of our people, stored in energy patterns that can be shared with those who are ready. Only humans can access certain layers because of the resonance you carry." "What kind of resonance?" Ilara asked. She felt a mix of curiosity and nervousness. Kale's gaze softened. "A connection to memory, to shared history. Humans once interacted with us in ways that allowed memories to be transmitted not only through words or writing but through energy itself. You carry that within you. That is why your presence here is remarkable." Inside the hall, the energy was stronger, almost overwhelming. Colors swirled and danced in patterns she could not name, forming shapes that seemed both familiar and strange. Ilara felt her pulse quicken. She had always been sensitive to patterns, to energy, but this was beyond anything she had experienced. It was as if the memories of thousands of Lyrians and humans were unfolding in real time around her. Kyle extended his hand, and a series of projections appeared, forming scenes from a time long before her own. Humans and Lyrians worked together in ways she had never imagined. They built cities that harmonized with planetary energy, explored new star systems, and shared knowledge of technology that blended biology and energy seamlessly. Ilara could almost hear the conversations, feel the laughter, the excitement, the sense of purpose that had driven those humans centuries ago. She realized that humans had never been mere observers in the universe. They had been active participants, teachers, friends, and partners. "These humans," she whispered, they shaped the universe alongside you. Not as conquerors, not as invaders, but as guides. Kyle nodded, the colors around his form shimmering softly. "Yes, and that is why your arrival matters. Many of our people have forgotten, or never truly knew, but now, through you, the bond can be remembered, honored, and perhaps renewed." They moved deeper into the hall, and Ilara noticed that the energy patterns were shifting, forming a path that seemed to lead her forward. She felt a pull toward the central chamber, an invisible current guiding her steps. As they approached, she could see a massive projection of two figures, human and Lyrian, standing side by side, hands extended toward a glowing orb of energy that seemed to contain a miniature galaxy. "This was the beginning of harmony," Kyle said. "Humans taught us to see the universe not only as space to explore, but as life to protect. Your people helped us understand energy, time, and balance. They were architects of understanding, not only of technology, but of philosophy, of connection." Ilara felt a wave of emotion, a mixture of awe and pride. She had always loved science, exploration, and discovery, but now she realized that her ancestors had walked among the stars in a way she had only imagined. They had not only observed, they had guided, shared, and built a legacy that still existed, quietly, beneath the surface of Lyrian society. As she reached out toward the projection, she felt a subtle resonance in her fingertips, a faint echo of the connection humans had once shared with the Lyrians. The energy pulsed gently, and for a moment she felt as if she were standing beside those humans from centuries ago, learning, laughing, and creating. "You are part of this story now," Kale said softly. "You carry the same potential, the same capacity for connection. You are here to help us remember, and perhaps to help us continue what was begun so long ago." Ilara closed her eyes, letting the sensation wash over her. She could feel the pull of history, of energy, of memory, and she realized that her journey was not merely about exploration. It was about understanding, about bridging the gap between what had been forgotten and what could be known again. Kale led her to another projection, this one showing a series of humans teaching Lyrians to manipulate energy in ways that allowed life to flourish. Cities floated above oceans without harming the environment. Forests glowed with bioenergy that could sustain itself indefinitely. And entire civilizations thrived in harmony with the planet. Humans had not only shared technology, they had shared wisdom, a philosophy that balanced creation and care. "These humans," Ilara said, "they weren't just scientists or explorers. They were guardians, partners, friends." Kale's eyes widened, a subtle flicker of color radiating from him. "Yes, and that is why some among us feared revealing the truth. Not because it is dangerous, but because it is profound. Recognition of your kind reminds us of what was lost and of what can be regained." Ilara felt a growing sense of purpose. She had arrived as an observer, a scholar seeking knowledge, but she now understood that she had a role to play in something much larger. The history of humans and Lyrians was not simply a story to be read. It was a living, breathing legacy that needed to be honored, remembered, and perhaps continued. As they moved further, Kale showed her records of the humans' departure from Lyrian society. The energy of the projections shifted, darker at first, reflecting uncertainty and fear, then lighter, showing hope and resilience. Humans had left, exploring other worlds, yet they had left traces of themselves, knowledge, wisdom, and a subtle energy that had endured across centuries. "You can feel it," Kale said, his voice gentle. "Even though humans left, their presence remains. It has shaped our culture, our understanding, our society. You carry that same energy now. That is why your arrival is extraordinary." Ilara felt a shiver of recognition. She had always sensed a pull toward the stars, a desire to understand the universe beyond Earth, but now she knew why. It was not just curiosity, it was part of a legacy that had been passed down through time, waiting for her to awaken it. They reached the final chamber of the hall, where the energy was almost blinding. Patterns of light and color intertwined, forming complex designs that seemed alive, breathing with intelligence. Ilara felt a tug at her mind, a connection she could not name, yet understood instinctively. She reached out, and the energy responded, pulsing gently through her fingertips. "This is the culmination," Kyle said. "Here lies the truth in its fullest form. Humans and Lyrians together, shaping civilizations, guiding energy, exploring the stars. You are now a part of that continuum, the bridge between past and present, between memory and future." Ilara felt tears prick her eyes. The sheer magnitude of what she was experiencing was overwhelming, yet exhilarating. She had always dreamed of discovering life beyond Earth, of understanding the universe in ways humans had never imagined. Now she realized that her species had done exactly that centuries ago, and she had the chance to continue the work. Kyle observed her quietly, his wide eyes filled with both pride and wonder. "Not everyone is ready to accept this truth, but you have the curiosity, the openness, and the resonance to understand it fully. You are not just a visitor. You are a part of the story that humans began so long ago." Ilara took a deep breath, feeling the energy of the hall flow through her. She could sense the lives of humans long gone, their laughter, their curiosity, their joy, and their care for other beings. She could sense the Lyrians' gratitude, their longing, and their hope, and she realized with a profound certainty that the universe was alive not only with stars and planets, but with connection, memory, and purpose. "You mean humans and Lyrians were partners in shaping the galaxy?" she asked softly. Kyle nodded. "Yes, and now, through you, the bond can awaken once more. Not for control, not for dominance, but for understanding, harmony, and shared growth." Ilara felt a quiet smile spread across her face. She had always believed in the potential of her species, in the ingenuity, curiosity, and resilience of humans. Now, seeing the truth, feeling it, experiencing it, she knew that humans were never truly separate from the galaxy. They had been part of its story all along. Kale reached out and guided her to a small platform at the center of the hall. Here, the energy was calm, focused, and responsive. As Ilara stood there, she felt a surge of clarity. The legacy of humans was alive within her, and she could sense the responsibility and opportunity that came with it. "You are ready," Kale said, his voice calm but filled with meaning, "to carry this knowledge, to understand it, and to help our worlds reconnect. The truth no longer needs to be concealed. It is alive, and it is yours to share." Ilara closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of history, the connection to her ancestors, and the bond with the Lyrians. She was ready to step into her role, not only as a scientist but as a bridge between species, a keeper of knowledge, and a living continuation of a story that had begun centuries ago. As she opened her eyes, the hall glowed softly around her, the colors shifting in gentle waves, reflecting the harmony she now felt within herself. She was no longer just a human on an alien world. She was a part of the living memory, a participant in the ongoing story of the galaxy, and she knew that the journey ahead would be extraordinary. And somewhere, deep in the swirling energy of the Hall of Memory, the echoes of humans and Lyrians long gone seemed to pulse in acknowledgement. They had been waiting for this moment, and it had finally arrived. The morning air on Xylaris felt different, charged with possibility. Dr. Ilara Hayes stepped out of her residence, the soft glow of the twin suns reflecting off the floating gardens and crystalline towers. The city seemed more alive than ever, as though it had sensed a shift in its rhythm. Today, Ilara knew, would be the day when the story she had uncovered began to unfold beyond the archives, reaching the hearts and minds of the Lyrians themselves. Kale was waiting for her in the central plaza, his posture calm but expectant. "Today," he said, his voice carrying soft musical tones, "we share the truth with our people. It will not be easy, but it is necessary. Humans are no longer unknown to us. The time has come to honor that connection." Ilara nodded, feeling a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had experienced the history, the living memories of humans and Lyrians together, and she had felt the pulse of centuries within her own veins. Now she would step forward, not just as a visitor, but as a bridge between two civilizations. The plaza was filled with Lyrians going about their daily routines, their movements elegant and deliberate. As Kale led her through the city, energy flowed gently around them, bending and shaping itself in response to their presence. Some Lyrians paused, watching the human walking among them. Their wide, reflective eyes revealed curiosity and caution. Ilara met their gazes with calm assurance, feeling the subtle pull of recognition, as if some ancient memory stirred within them. They arrived at the Hall of Assembly, a place where Lyrians gathered to share knowledge, make decisions, and honor their history. The hall was circular, vast, and luminous. Its walls formed from energy that shifted in response to thought and emotion. Ilara felt her pulse synchronize with the subtle rhythm of the room, her presence acknowledged by every ripple of color and light. Kale extended his hand to her. "You will speak to them, Dr. Hayes, not only with words, but with presence. Humans carry energy in a way few Lyrians can perceive. Let them feel it, and they will understand." Ilara took a deep breath. She had been trained in diplomacy, in communication, but nothing on earth had prepared her for this moment. She felt the weight of history and responsibility pressing on her, yet it was tempered by a sense of purpose and belonging. She was not alone. She carried the legacy of humans who had walked beside the Lyrians centuries ago, and she knew the truth needed to be shared. The Lyrians assembled in the hall, their forms shimmering in soft, harmonious colors. Some shifted nervously, while others radiated calm curiosity. Kale guided Ilara to the center, where energy from her presence began to ripple outward. The room responded immediately, the colors intensifying, patterns shifting and dancing as though the hall itself recognized the importance of this moment. "Ilara," Kale said softly, "you must allow them to see what we have discovered together. Let them perceive the connection that has always existed between humans and Lyrians." Closing her eyes, Ilara reached out with her consciousness, letting the energy she carried flow naturally. She had felt it in the archives, in the Hall of Memory, and now she projected it outward. Lyrians reacted immediately. Some gasped softly, others tilted their heads, and all of them felt the pulse of a bond they had long forgotten. Images and sensations of humans working with Lyrians, of shared knowledge and discovery, flowed through their minds. The assembly grew silent, captivated by the presence of a human in their midst and the living memory she carried. The energy conveyed more than words ever could. The joy of discovery, the harmony of shared purpose, the laughter of humans and Lyrians working together. For the first time in centuries, the truth of their history became undeniable. Kale's eyes widened slightly, a subtle shimmer of emotion passing over him. "They understand," he whispered. "Not through explanation, but through resonance. This is the way of our connection. They feel it, and in that feeling, they know." Ilara opened her eyes, meeting the gaze of the Lyrians. She smiled gently. "You have lived alongside this history for generations," she said. "Humans were once your partners, your friends, your guides. They shared knowledge, built civilizations, and explored the stars with you. That connection has never been lost. It is alive here, within all of us, waiting to be remembered." The Lyrians reacted in subtle but profound ways. Colors shifted in their bodies, patterns flowing and merging as their minds absorbed the revelation. Some wept softly, sensing the depth of the connection. Others radiated joy, understanding that they were not alone in the universe, that humans had walked beside them, shaping the stars together. Kyle spoke to the assembly, his voice calm and resonant. "The truth has been concealed for generations, not to deceive, but to protect. We feared revealing the past, fearing it might disrupt our society. But now, the truth cannot be hidden. The human presence among us rekindles what was lost. It reminds us that cooperation, trust, and shared knowledge are the greatest strengths we possess." Ilara watched the transformation unfold. Lyrians began to speak among themselves, their colors and patterns blending as they shared the revelation with one another. Questions arose, but so did smiles, laughter, and wonder. The hidden history of humans and Lyrians, once buried beneath time and fear, was now alive in the hearts of every being in the hall. One elder Lyrian, Sirin, stepped forward. His form radiated wisdom and calm, his presence commanding respect. "This human," he said, his voice deep and melodic, "carries the legacy of our shared past. She reminds us that we are not alone in the galaxy. Humans were once our partners, our teachers, and our guides. And now, they are here to remind us again." Ilara felt a sense of warmth and pride. She had come to Xylaris seeking knowledge, yet she had found something far greater, a living connection, a bond that transcended species and centuries. She understood that her role was no longer merely observational. She was a participant in the story, a bridge between past and present. The Lyrians began to embrace the revelation openly. Assemblies formed, conversations sparkled with curiosity and understanding, and the energy of the city itself seemed to pulse more vibrantly. Humans were no longer unknown or distant. They were remembered, honored, and celebrated. Kale guided Ilara to a quiet terrace overlooking the city. "Do you feel it?" he asked. "The energy of recognition, of connection. Your presence has changed our society. The truth is no longer concealed. Humans are part of our story, and that story is alive again." Ilara gazed at the floating gardens, the towers, and the rivers of glowing flora. She could sense the energy of the Lyrians, their joy, curiosity, and excitement. And beneath it all, she felt the pulse of her own species, the legacy of humans who had shaped civilizations, guided knowledge, and fostered harmony across the stars. "Yes," she said softly. "I feel it, and I understand now. Humans were never outsiders. We were part of this galaxy's story all along. And now perhaps we can continue that story together." Kyle smiled, a soft, shimmering glow radiating from him. "Yes, together humans and Lyrians can share knowledge, explore the universe, and honor the bonds that unite us. The journey is only beginning." As the twin suns began to set, casting hues of violet, gold, and rose across the city, Elara felt a profound sense of peace. She had discovered truths she had never imagined, witnessed the living history of her species, and connected with beings whose society had flourished in harmony with the galaxy. And she knew that the future held limitless possibilities. That night, the city glowed with energy, celebrating a new understanding. Lyrians shared stories, laughter, and knowledge with one another, and Elara walked among them, feeling a quiet pride and belonging. She had come as a scientist seeking discovery, yet she had become a herald of unity, a reminder that cooperation, respect, and shared history could shape civilizations and illuminate the stars. Somewhere across the plaza, Kyle's eyes widened once more, not in fear, not in uncertainty, but in recognition and admiration. The human presence had reminded the Lyrians of their shared past and awakened the hope of a connected future. Elara stood atop a terrace, looking out at the glowing city and the stars beyond. The galaxy was vast, filled with life, stories, and mysteries waiting to be discovered, and she knew that humans were no longer distant observers or forgotten guides. They were part of the living story of the cosmos, shining alongside every intelligent life form, connected across time and space. She closed her eyes, feeling the energy of Xylaris, the pulse of the Lyrians, and the echoes of humans long gone. And she smiled, knowing that the story of humanity, of connection, and of shared purpose was only beginning anew. The truth was no longer hidden. It had awakened, and the galaxy, in all its vastness, would never be the same.